you feel like God is quiet in your story, then I would love to encourage you today. Recently, as I went through that exact same thing where I thought, God, where are you? I'm trying to rebuild my life after so many changes, and I need your guidance and I need you to direct my steps. I was quietly reminded of my favorite psalm, Psalm 23, and I would love to encourage you with this today. You know, if we look at the topography of Psalm 23, it's very reminiscent of what life actually looks like with its hilltops and valley seasons. And Psalm 23 starts out to say, the Lord is my shepherd. I have everything that I need. He makes me lie down in green pastures and he leads me beside still waters. Now I want to pause here for a moment because I don't know about you, but to me that sounds like a hilltop experience. The psalm is written from the point of view of a shepherd with his flock. And sheep graze on green pastures, and they quench their thirst with still waters. And it also speaks of the rest that they find, knowing that the shepherd has taken care of all their needs. So that sounds like a place where we want to stay forever. It also says that he leads us along the right paths for his name's sake. But then we get to the part where it talks about, even though I go through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil because your rod and your staff it comforts and protects me. Now here I want to pause a bit because this is where you might be finding yourself in your season of your life. And the valley season is when no one wants to stay. But can I encourage you that there is so much good that comes from the valley season? You know, when we're in the valley season, yes, it is quiet. And you can almost see it as a place of separation. And during the place of separation is the place for preparation. You see, sometimes God brings you into the valley season because he needs to remove certain things from your life to prepare you for what is lying ahead. Maybe it is a relationship that's no longer serving you. Or maybe it's a job that is just draining the life out of you and God has got so much more for you. And sometimes it's very sad because we've got to let things go that's familiar to us in order to step into what God has got for us on the other side. And it's in that separation period where that preparation starts. The other part of the valley season that we sometimes just quickly read over is the death part, where we sometimes have to die to ourselves, where God brings us to a place where he strips things out of our lives and out of our character that is not serving us. And we need to relinquish those parts of ourselves to God. Maybe it's pride, maybe it's stubbornness. Whatever it is in your life that God has been showing you that he wants to prune out of your life is a death season. And how many of you know that death is quiet? It doesn't mean that God is not there. In the separation stage, it's not that we are separated from God, but he is separating us from the things in our lives that are no longer serving us. And in those moments where it feels like death in our life, we know that God has got a promise. Even if we look at Jesus, when he died, it was quiet for 3 days. But there was resurrection that came after 3 days. And the same is in this valley season, because it goes on to say, his rod and his staff comforts and protects us. You know, the staff speaks of the shepherd's love for his flock, because at the end of the staff is a hook. And that hook he uses to draw the lamb close to him, so that it can rest its head on its chest, on God's chest as the shepherd, and we can hear his heartbeat for our lives. But do you know that you can only hear that heartbeat of God in the quiet, when there's no noise and there's no speaking? The rod speaks of protection and how God protects us in this very vulnerable season of the valley against the predators. And even if you feel like you are exposed and you are so lonely, just know that God promises that he is there with you. And then he goes on to say that he anoints our head with oil, our cups overflow. And that speaks of after the breaking season of the separation and the death that happens in the valley season, God promotes you to what you were called for, to what He has birthed inside of you during that season of quiet. And it goes on to say that He prepares a table before you in the presence of your enemies. That is restoration, that is vindication, that is rest, because you did not work for that table that was prepared for you. And there's everything once again that you need. The provision of God is right there. And goodness and mercy shall follow you all the days of your life. And surely you will live in the house of the Lord forever. So that is the mountaintop experience again, as God has brought you through the valley, through the quiet, through the dying to self and the separation period and the preparation period. So I hope that you are encouraged by this today. And if you are, share it with someone that you think might need this. And remember, Jesus